Welcome to the Real Estate Show. From buying to selling and everything in between. Rochester's home for everything real estate. And now, your hosts from the Anthony Butera team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. It's Anthony Butera and Jason Mancuso.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 91 of the Real Estate Show. We have Anthony and Jason here. Welcome, guys.
What up?
Everybody.
Good.
Now, we were talking about it a little before we cracked the mics here, but so you guys are replacing Kimberly and Beck, right?
Yeah, we just got asked last night.
You got to send in some demos. You know, we'll get on there.
Mm-hmm.
Two bald guys.
Yeah.
Show up. Fat and bald in the afternoon.
Switch
Kimberly
things.
and Kimberly and Beck to bald and fat.
Mark, what's your work? You've been at the station the whole time, right? Or
Yeah. I haven't done anything from home.
And now are they like loosening things back up? Because Anthony's been in the office because he's an owner and able to, but I'm back in as of yesterday. So
Yeah. So is it 50% capacity for you guys, or is there rules for office administrative stuff?
Just really strict guidelines. In essence, the agents can come in, and I didn't know what was going to happen. But I can tell you that I think people have gotten, and I shouldn't use this word comfortable, but I think people have made adjustments to their business. And it wasn't like this has been going on for a couple of weeks. It's been going on for a few months. And I think that they, gotten cozy and seen that they can be productive out of their homes. If the office were just, if it was back to normal without guidelines, then I think we would be busier, but there hasn't been a lot of agent activity here. They've popped in and out, but there hasn't been too much. And I get it, because the guidelines are they're ridiculous, to be honest with you.
yeah.
They make the guidelines practically impossible, almost to avoid you having to bring people back, or bring people back because we want to bring them back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, still taking everything serious with COVID, but like you said, it's kind of, is it practical to have a bunch of people in an office based on what you got to do? I mean, we gotta sign in, we gotta take a health screening questionnaire each day, we gotta make sure that any common area space is you're masked up, you're wiping stuff down, everything that you touched essentially.
Can't share a coffee pot.
Can't share a coffee pot. If you share an office, as long as you're within 6 feet from each other, you're okay. But you can't be less than 6 feet distance. Of course, as we all know by now. So yeah, it's a lot. From the office standpoint, it's a lot. From let's dive into just the consumer side of it with showings. It's also a lot on that end too, right? I mean, there's kind of everybody, there's guidelines set, similar to what I just rattled off of the obvious stuff: masks, sanitation, 6 feet apart. You're allowed to show a home now in person. Hey, I can't remember the last episode we did. I think it was like the day after that it got released that we could, right? So. Yeah. Since then, I mean, now we took last week off. We've had 2 weeks of like experiencing what it is. And what it is every agent, every seller is going to handle things differently. And that's kind of creating it's a little bit of a cluster. I mean, it's manageable, but you're keeping up with things on a case by case basis. And, buyers need to be prepped to either be health screened or, on the other end of the extreme, frankly, nothing at all. Go ahead and show it as long as you got a mask on. So I don't want to say frustrating, like, it's not manageable, but, it adds up when you're dealing with, 10 different agents every day that have 10 different ways of doing it. And you got to kind of adapt and figure out who needs to sign what, who needs to do what, and go from there. So it's one of these, like, 2 months of doing business virtually, and you got used to that as well. Obviously, for a buyer and a seller, like, there's advantages to seeing homes in person, but now it's just kind of deciphering what each individual set of circumstances is. I don't know. I hate the term "it is what it is," but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, and again, it could change tomorrow. I mean, I do actually anticipate new guidelines tomorrow because phase 3 is going to start. Yes, correct.
Yeah, actually, we haven't talked about that. I mean, I didn't even thought of it that way. I just kind of was assuming we're in this strict capacity moving forward for a while. But yeah, it's probably going to change with each layer of phases that comes out.
Yes, phase 3 is 100% starting tomorrow, or it can start tomorrow. Because I know that's a little bit of what people are getting annoyed with, right?
So yeah. I can tell you that all indoor restaurants, and I know a lot of people that own restaurants, they're all fully prepared for tomorrow evening to be able to start dining indoors at a certain percentage, right? It's not going to be 100%. It's probably going to be 50% or possibly 25%. So with those changes, I would anticipate changes for us coming from the state down to the Empire District, whatever the hell they're called, that Duffy runs, and hopefully we get new loosened up guidelines, because it's tough. There's so many gray areas, and it's like trying to learn a new language every single week. Mm-hmm. And we struggle enough with English.
And I think from our standpoint, like at the end of the day, it's on us more than ever to we have to have the conversations around what's going on from just a state guideline perspective, but also just the health and the safety aspect too. And with each individual seller or each individual buyer, it's something that we've in the last 2 weeks since we've been quote unquote open back up, we've had to now work this into our routine of requirements of how we handle the business, and make sure that we're having the conversation to see look at what are you comfortable with, what are you not, and we'll adapt accordingly. Especially for sellers, we're working on both extremes of some sellers just don't care, get them in the house. And some sellers are very sensitive to it for, whether it's children, health risks, whatever, or just, sensitive to COVID. And we have to plan accordingly for that. So, I mean, as we've talked throughout the last couple months, just, the virtual world that we've adapted to, we're really not getting away from that at all, have no plans on getting away from that at all moving forward. The fact of the matter is, if we can provide value to the general public and to our sellers or buyers by having virtual tours prepped for each of our listings, why not? And it's so easy. I mean, essentially it's an extra, 10 to 15 minutes in the house when you're there for the photos. Yep. And it's not like a totally costly or time consuming process to add this value for the market in general. So yep. We're still operating like that, and it's so far we haven't had negative experiences, I guess, because of really anything COVID related from the start. I mean, it's been aside from the having to adapt and pivot and figure out new things, it really hasn't been like oh my God, this is the worst thing that could have happened to the business or to a client of ours because of any of these regulations or new ways of doing business. I think there's a lot of good that's come from this, and a lot of benefits that hopefully our peers can kind of continue on with the trends to continue to utilize for their customers as well, their clients as well.
Yeah, during times like this, and the worst of times, I mean, if our local economy was completely in ruins, there's always going to be opportunity in inopportune moments, right? So the strong, I feel like, have gotten stronger, and the strong have capitalized on the new opportunities. So has there been an abundance of listings? No. With that said, we've gained market share in an inopportune time. And we did that because we were nimble and we adjusted, and we essentially, we changed the way that we do business, and we had to. as a team, I'll speak specific to us, like, we don't have the luxury, whether you consider it luxury or not, of just being an individual agent. And, if you can afford to throw in the towel for a few months and that's your decision, God bless you. Like, we don't have that luxury. We have employees. Our team would be a top 20 brokerage in the community for the amount of business that we do. So we don't have the luxury of sitting back. We got bills.
Yeah. I mean, you make a good point. If you were an individual agent and let's just say you had COVID or were affected by it, it's different than, we've got 15 people that we feel we're responsible for to drive their business and their life. So it's something that we had. We were forced to adapt. And it just turns out that it's, it was a good thing. It was for our benefit for the long term. And that's something that we're looking at. And I think that's the way that this industry can hopefully look at it and make some changes moving forward. It's not about just us making our lives easier. It's for the consumer too. Like we've talked about it. If you have the choice of looking at 10 virtual showings to narrow it down to 2 or 3 houses, why wouldn't you want to do that compared to going out and having to physically schedule 10, showings of a property and taking up, a full day or multiple days?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's, not belittling it at all, but I think there's a lot of silver linings, behind what everything is, behind what's happened in the last few months.
Sure. No doubt. We're better equipped for anything that happens down the road, because stuff is going to happen. If it's not a pandemic, it's going to be a market shift, and our ability to be nimble and adapt the way that we have is going to be huge, because the big shifts, they're not going to be this 3-month pandemic period that we've kind of experienced. It's going to be a market shift. Where we could be in a 5-year down market. When I got into the business, our market here locally, it was not good. I mean, it wasn't good across the nation, but it wasn't good in Rochester. And I remember chasing short sales, right? Because there was a lot of short sales. People that got in trouble from, 2007, 8, 9, when the bubble burst, and the repercussions for everybody with a pulse getting pre-qualified for $350,000 back in the day, and the non-income verification loans. And I remember I got into the business facing those repercussions and didn't love doing short sales. But again, it was an opportunity that you have to capitalize if you're going to survive and if your business can sustain through the test of time. And you're going to have to.
Yeah, so I mean, let's shift the conversation, kind of a segue into what the current market condition is. And it's been a theme of this, what'd you say we're on, 91st episode?
Yeah, 91 episodes. Yep.
I'd be willing to bet that probably 75 of those episodes talk about, this crazy seller's market that we've been living in for the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
This is the craziest shit I've ever seen. It's like on steroids, the seller's market, went from a very strong man and turned into Godzilla and is now just stomping on people's faces. I don't know. It's great for sellers, for buyers. It's not impossible. We're not trying to deter buyer interest. It's just going to be one of the, a conversation of like, look, you have to be prepared to be competitive and have to have your ducks in a row if you want to stand a chance in the market. It's not us trying to turn you off to anything or to get you into a bad deal or anything, or just, try to get you to win. That's just the reality out there. We're not going to be able to point to any comps to justify what things are selling for right now for the most part. And you have to be comfortable with that concept. If you're not, then we gotta, then we got to pivot and kind of look at what the options are for you moving forward. Does it make sense to stay in your lease for another year at this point? Does it, do you sit it out for a couple weeks, a month, see where things are at that point? I mean, we don't know what, we can safely assume what next week looks like. We really don't know what next month looks like. And we certainly don't know what next year looks like. I think the driving force to the market is the low interest rate. So as long as the rates stay low, there's not a factor out there that's going to lead to an increase in supply to where we're looking at things saying, okay, we're shifting to a balanced market or shifting to a buyer's market. So, if the rate's going to stay low, it's going to stay like this for, we've been in it for 4 years now, and it could be years to come too if they continue on. I saw the Fed came out yesterday saying they're not doing anything on their end till 2022 at least.
Yeah, being a buyer right now in this current market is like trying to get toilet paper on March 20th.
Yeah,
you're going to have to go to a lot of stores, and you're going to have to be willing to pay way over asking.
I hate that example. That is the perfect example.
Yeah, it really is. It's tough.
I never thought of it that way. That's freaking perfect.
It's shitty. No pun intended. And I'm telling a lot of people, because I'm getting phone calls from people that this is the common phone call I receive. Hey, Anthony, listen, I got your name, I got your contact info online, or I see your signs everywhere, and I wanted to give you a call. So listen, my daughter, she's been working with an agent, but this agent hasn't been able to get them a house. I said, okay, well, tell me a little bit more. And they keep losing out on offers. And I'm never going to take the approach of, you got to work with me, because the reality is you can't blame these agents. Ultimately, they're going to write an offer as strong as you want to write it for. And if you don't have to move and their lease isn't up for another 6 months, my advice would be to wait. And I know it doesn't put money in our pockets today, but you have to be honest at the end of the day. If you're not cut out for this market and you're not extremely patient, you're going to have to wait. And I know what it's like, because I have zero patience when I want something. But I'm also the person that will overpay because I want it right now, right?
That's a great point. And, a lot of this ties into, we don't have the crystal ball. We don't know what the future holds.
We have the crystal meth.
That'll get people to come.
I feel like most days. The Rochester market has been so predictable up till about 5 years ago that you can make general, pretty accurate assumptions about predicting the future, 5 to 7 years out. In that, we're not a market that sees a lot of fluctuation, up or down. And, if you buy something here, the comps justify it because there's no reason that it's going to sell with demand tied to it if you're a seller that's drastically overpricing their property. So you could have looked at something and said, okay, it's probably going to be worth about this. If there's a bidding war by chance, if it's a hot property and, you got to go a little outside of the comfort zone of what the comparables suggest, then you can kind of still factor in what the plan's going to be. We have no idea if, the market just continues to rise with, in a price increase 5 years from now. If, the bottom falls out, I don't think it will, but I'm not going to sit here and guarantee that. Or if it's just going to level out, stay steady. We don't know. So, if you're in that short term, if you're buying a house now and you're in that short term category of you're going to move 3 to 5, even 7 years from now, you have to be willing to take risk of not knowing what the future holds and being okay with that, with these competitive offer situations. Now, we'll always give you our gut feeling as to, I think I can appreciate that you want to offer $200,000 on this house that's listed for $150,000 and 5 years ago was worth $125,000. I don't really think that would be a great long-term move for you, or and especially a short-term move. So we'll let you know when we think like, hey, look I appreciate the aggressive approach. You're getting a little too crazy here. That I've said my piece. If you really want this house and you're willing to pay for it, whatever you're comfortable with. But I'm not saying that's all we can do, but that's kind of what it comes down to, is you got to be comfortable with what you're, deciding on from the financial standpoint of purchasing a home. And it's tough.
Yeah, it is. And, it's, I was just approached by one of my new neighbors, and it was that same conversation. Like, the parents are frustrated because, my daughter's just throwing money out the window paying rent. Well, I get it, and they could be throwing more money out the window buying right now. It's a tough conversation. And again, my message would be, if you're not cut out for this and you don't have to buy right now, waiting may be the best thing that you can do. It's not a guarantee because, the market's not going to shift to a buyer's market for the foreseeable future, but I do think it's going to lighten up a little bit if I had to guess, right? And I'm assuming.
I think that's a good point in that, like, I don't think, what we're experiencing right now in the market is sustainable for the long term. But I've also been saying that probably for the last couple of years. And
people are living
with it elevated. So, like, nobody could predict COVID, obviously, and nobody could have predicted what that has done to the market. But here we are. I think the only devil's advocate point I would make to what you said, Anthony, is just, if you are a buyer and the interest rate rises, does that end up hurting you more over the long term than the $10,000 or $20,000, extra, so to speak, that you paid to win an offer?
It's tough.
It's really tough.
So with the idea of, like, maybe in the fall or at some points there being like a second wave of coronavirus, and maybe like,
I don't even want to freaking go there. I'll lose.
I was gonna say,
if that happens, I'm coming after your ass.
I was gonna say, do you guys, is there a plan or system in place, or is it just come beat me up? I didn't know.
Well, I think the good news to that is, we can easily, the first 2 weeks, really the first week of whatever the date was, March 15th, March 20th, was like, it just felt like we were in a friggin', FEMA disaster room, not to make light of any, natural disasters that people have experienced. But I mean, it just felt like it was just damage control every second of every day.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think the good news, because we had that experience, because we know how to adapt to it, we're able to just, I say it lightly, but flip a switch if needed. So,
well, I got some actual good news. As of 10 minutes ago of recording this, we are tomorrow or Friday the 12th will officially be phase 3 of reopening. So that's, limited indoor seating at restaurants. That's like, how do they phrase it? I think it's like salon stuff, like personal care services.
Bikini waxes.
And then the DMV. So, so we'll all get our nails done.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get some Olive Garden.
Massage parlor.
Yeah.
Has anybody, have either of you guys been in outdoor seating yet?
I'm not bringing the kids to that. No, I haven't.
Have you?
What's that?
Have you dined outdoors or out yet?
I don't get out much.
Yeah, I don't know if I've saw a bunch of people on like Park Ave, and a bunch of restaurants are doing it.
Like, I got to imagine it's impossible to like actually, walk in and sit down somewhere.
It's impossible to comply. And I'm not going to like name restaurants, but like if you drive down Ridge Road, you could see all the restaurants that have outdoor seating. And I mean, what are you going to do? I think you have to show that you're not complicit, and you're trying, you're making the effort to stay safe, right? And everyone's efforts are going to look different. They may not be the guidelines, but it may be the safest, most realistic way.
I think what's nice too about tomorrow in phase 3 is there's a ton of restaurants out there that don't have the opportunity to have outdoor seating.
Correct.
So at least they can get a couple of people inside and, while doing their orders and stuff. So it was a little unfair with phase 2. You have to be a big restaurant with a big parking lot, and you can't be this little hole in the wall place,
Yeah.
I just, and I know there's other businesses that fall into this category, but with everything since March, I really feel for the restaurants just because I know how tight the margins are in that industry. And to have to experience what we've experienced the last 3 months is nothing short of tragic. So it's terrible. Let's not lose sight of, everything that we have experienced and how freaking crazy it really is for the grand scheme of, history. Hopefully they can all make it,
All right. Well, let's see. Check out AnthonyButeroTeam.com and subscribe to the podcast there. And we'll see you next week, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to The Real Estate Show. Find us on Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. If you're looking to sell or buy, talk to the Anthony Butera team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. Visit AnthonyButeroTeam.com.